Hello, everybody out there in Zoom land. Welcome to the fourth DRE Cafe. That's right, Dam Removal Europe. I'm your MC, your host, your filler guy. My name is Chris Bowser. You can call me Bowser. I'm coming in today from the beautiful banks of the Hudson River, Mahikanituk, in our Munsee Mohican language here. And we are very, very happy to be hosting this today. The DRE Cafe, this is really meant as a fun, active, engaged way to talk about connected rivers. And as part of that engagement, we'd like to hear from you. So that chat box is for you to use. One, if you have any questions, put them in the chat box and we'll get to them if we can. Two, we'd also love to hear where people are coming from. So in that chat box, if you want to introduce yourself, what you do, where you are, and kind of nearest and dearest to my heart, what is the waterway, the river, the ocean, the estuary that is closest to your heart? Because that's what we're really here to talk about, how love flows through all of our rivers and how reconnecting those rivers and taking dams down is increasing the love. We're going to have a lot of great interviews today from all over the world: Norway, Croatia, Netherlands, the United States, and a special guest, Will Millard from the United Kingdom. We are really happy to have all of these great people speaking today. This whole cafe is organized by one of my favorite groups, the World Fish Migration Foundation. And if you haven't dived deep yet into the World Fish Migration Foundation, you absolutely should. This is really a partnership organization that is part of Dam Removal Europe, as well as the Open Rivers Fund. The Open Rivers Fund is a program of the Resources Legacy Fund, which is supported by the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. We also have support from all sorts of different partners. I really want to point out Rewilding Europe. Thank you very much for the great work you're doing. And one of my favorites, the WWF, the World Wildlife Foundation. You guys are doing great work all over Europe, really all over the world. So we appreciate all the support from all of those partners, and we especially appreciate all of the support and all of the hard work of our many, many special guests. So once again, be sure to introduce yourself, dear listener, in the chat box. And as questions come up, please put those questions in there as well. We've got a fast-paced program, so we're actually going to jump right into our first interview. We are going to be talking with, and by the way, I apologize ahead of time for horrible pronunciations. I highly recommend every speaker introduce yourself with the correct pronunciation because I will butcher them all. So, Tor Solbakken. Tor Solbakken leads a Norwegian angling association. I just got my fishing license, and is a Norwegian river hero. That's what we like, heroes. He has already managed to dynamite a big dam, and he is moving on to the next one. Hello, Tor. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, hello. Hello, everyone.
Thank you for being here, Tor. Tor, why did you get into this dam removal thing? Why did you decide to start removing dams?
First of all, I work about 10 years for healthy rivers. And that who inspired me, I think it was the Damnation movie. Yeah, that's the first I experienced with the dam removals. So, and we have, of course, Norway is a big hydropower country, and we also have many old dams that is not in use anymore. So it's a good start to try to remove them.
What's the situation in Norway when it comes to dam removal? What's the kind of landscape when it comes to dam removal specifically?
Well, it's not usual to remove dams here in Norway, but yeah, we're trying. It's a good start to remove the old dam last year. So Yeah.
So you dynamited a big dam last year. How did that feel? And have you seen any improvements since that? Tell us about that project.
Well, it feels great, of course. No improvements yet because it's almost no fish left in the river because of the old dam and flood protection. The river runs through the small city, of course, and it's protected against flood, so it's just a channel through the city. So opening up the river and remove the dam so the fish can swim 10 kilometers up in the river. So it feels great. It's the only chance we have to save the fish.
That's awesome. And have you actually been able to see and monitor fish using that newly reconnected river stretch?
Yes. Last year in the summer, we see the fish try to jump. And I think many fish, swim up in the river.
That's awesome. Tor, that must feel awesome. It sounds like you're already working now on a second removal. Is this on the same river or a different river?
It's a different river.
Okay. Why did you decide, like, what made you choose this second site? What makes this one attractive to you?
Yeah, that's the second dam I know that it's not in use. And removing that dam will open up 20 kilometers for the local trout species we have in that river.
Wow, that is a big stretch of river. That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it's an old dam, about 100 years old, I think. So I talked to the owner, and of course, he know about the first dam removal, so it's that's a good thing. And of course, he want to hear more about how we thinking about to remove it. And he didn't say no, so that's a good start.
So Tor, I got a somewhat personal professional question. How do you do it? What is it about? What is it that you're doing that's getting these dams down?
Well, I couldn't do that. You know, the Norwegian Environment Agency here in Norway, they are founding such project like this, dam removals. So we need to have the money because it's you can't get the money without them. So, and they are of course supporting our work here in Norway. So we have the plans. We already removed one dam. So I think we are going to make a plan this winter before the spring, and that's a good start to get the money.
Nice. If there was somebody, a local person or a young person looking to get into this field, what advice do you have for people starting out in this dam removal career or this dam removal process? What advice do you give to somebody who's getting started and wants to bring a dam down?
Well, here in Norway, you have to be connected with a sports fisher organization, maybe. There's a lot of them in all the cities. And you have to get in touch with the Norwegian Environment Agency, and you can look up the websites. You can get all the information you need, and you can contact them. I think that's my best tip to get started.
I like that you kind of covered a couple of different spheres that intersect here. There's that agency sphere, you know, that you were just talking about, getting in touch with the Norwegian agencies. But you started off by mentioning sport fishing groups. Yeah. And, you know, you in this introduction, it was, you know, you're leading an angling association. And I think that that's a really great point to make, that there are communities out there. There are people out there, recreational fishermen that have, you know, aesthetic and recreational and economic interests in dam removals. And those are really important levers to use in your work. So kudos to you, Tor. Thank you so much for the great work that you're doing. And we just, we really appreciate what's going on in Norway. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. We're gonna sort of skip across Europe now from north to south a little bit. We're gonna go to Croatia. Croatia, where we're gonna meet Branka Spanisek. Now, Branka is a project officer at WWF Adria. And again, please repronounce that if needed. And Branka, you're the coordinator of the first dam removal ever executed in the Balkans. Is that true?
Yes. Hi, Chris. Really nice to see all of you guys. Yes, actually, in Montenegro, this was our first dam removal ever. Yeah, so basically it was removing of 3 rivers on Vezišnica River in Montenegro, making it completely free-flowing again, so 15 kilometers of the river.
Wow. Braga, how did you become this river superhero? How did this start? What was the middle like? And how do you feel now?
Mm-hmm. Actually, I mean, I don't consider myself a superhero. I have a whole lot of people behind me, colleagues who are even greater superheroes when it comes to river protection and dam removal. So yeah, it was a lot of work, I would say, especially in that case, from my colleagues from Montenegro, which were directly lobbying with the municipality of Pljevlja. They have an ongoing actually work there together with TNC and WWF on protection of Čehotina River. So this was a really nice hand-in-hand work, I would say.
You know, your emphasis on partnerships and your emphasis on colleagues is really, really important. It's been over a year now since those dams were removed. And also, same kind of similar question, were those 3 dams all on the same river?
Yes, actually, they were really close. So maybe like 500 meters apart. They were actually illegally built for the purpose to divert the water into fish ponds that were never created. Huh. So that was really a good reason to remove them. And we had a great support of the local community, local municipality, backing up what Tore said, also great support from the local fishing association. They were really amazed with the removals. We were all actually really amazed when we saw it the next day. I mean, this is something that I will never forget. You can see how a river basically restored itself, of course, with our help, but it looked like the barriers were never there. So it's amazing.
Branka, that must have felt. How did you feel when you saw this happening? What went through your mind? What went through your heart?
Yeah, wow. I mean, it was a lot of mixed feelings. I mean, I knew how much of work went into there. I think there were also a few tears in our eyes, but we were really extremely proud of ourselves, of other colleagues that took part in this. So yeah, really amazing experience.
What do you think was the biggest challenge you had to overcome to get these down?
I mean, always this bureaucracy, administration, that's always a burden. I would have to say, luckily from the financial support side, we had a support from TNC and WWF. So this was, let's say, a bit easier task, but this administration, when you have to go through several procedures, you have to get several permits, it's always a bit of a burden.
Yep. Yeah, I think that I bet there are a lot of people on this call who are nodding their heads saying the same exact thing. Yeah. You had mentioned that you had support of the local communities.
Yes.
How did you get that support? And what do those local communities think of their river now?
So, I mean, it's always good to have this one person that is energizing everybody else. Luckily, we had this one person who was coming from the fishing association. So basically, the word about the dam removal was spread really quickly. we had, I would say in general, a really good support of them. They were with us in the field when the barriers were removed, and they were already thinking like, okay, now those barriers are not stopping or collecting the debris and waste. Now we can clean the river. It will be connected again. There will be more fish. So yeah, they had a really, really positive impact from the removal.
That is awesome. That when you can capture that kind of popular support, you are doing something really, really right. So, Branka, we already established I'm not allowed to call you a superhero, okay? But within your Marvel-like team of Avenger superheroes, of which you are one of many members, is there ever a discussion about a nationwide policy? Is there anything from this river basin example that could be expanded, either geographically and or politically?
Yes, it actually is. So my colleagues from Eco Team from Montenegro, who were actually doing most of the work, they still have a really nice cooperation with the Ministry of Environment. Actually, we had people from the ministry present in the field with us when we removed the barriers. So they together already have an Open Rivers program funded project to identify barriers on other river, Upper Zeta catchment area. And basically they do see a need that we have dam removal in the national policies. Of course, I mean, there is a lot of work behind that to change the policies, to update them. But what we have, let's say, seen, I mean, it's not always everything nice and peachy. We saw that there is still a lot of work that has to be done, especially on closing this knowledge gap. There is regarding like what is barrier removal, what is it contributing to, what kind of effects can it have, how we can basically combine it with the requirements that are imposed, for example, by EU Water Framework Directive and the directives like this. So yeah, there is still a lot of work, but we see that not only in Montenegro, but also in other countries of Adria region, there is a willingness to have dam removal more enforced.
Well, Branka, you and the World Wildlife Foundation, you're doing some fantastic work there. This is incredible. Again, I just love this question for everybody joining in. How did you get started? Why, Branka? Why are you doing what you do?
I mean, I really love rivers. I was born next to one. It's River Drava. It's another of WWF priority areas where I'm coming from. So I was personally always connected with rivers, and somehow, yeah, I knew that I will end up working on protection of rivers. So, I mean, my expertise is in river restoration, and I mean, dam removal is one of the types of restoration. In the end, if we just say it like in general. So yeah, somehow it was some kind of, let's say, natural path for me.
Beautiful. Branka, do you have a favorite fish or other river animal?
Yeah, I actually have not maybe, I mean, a fish, a sturgeon, definitely, any type of sturgeon.
Sturgeon?
I have several. I have several. I really like birds. So yeah, I'm also working on protection of really nice species like terns and sand martins. And I also have a very favorite plant, which is called German tamarisk. It's extinct on my river, so Drava River, but we are trying to bring it back. So yeah, a lot of favorites, I would say.
Oh, beautiful. Branka, do you mind if I share a couple? Your sturgeon got me excited. Can I share a couple of critters with you? Do you mind?
Of course, yes.
Personally, I have found, so I want to let everybody know, I'm actually an environmental educator that occasionally masquerades as a fish biologist, all right? But what I really do is I love to not just teach at people, but to bring people into the environment and into our rivers. So here on the Hudson River estuary, I find that a lot of people get very excited about the animals that live here. And then those animals become this story that they get to follow into things like river connectivity and why should we care about dams and culverts and all of these. And I don't know if you can see behind me, I have a little diamondback terrapin, which is an interesting turtle that actually likes brackish water. So it's a very coastal estuary turtle that can handle a little bit of salt in its environment. And oh, he's coming up to say hi. His name's Odin because he has one eye that was messed up at birth. So he's kind of our rescue terrapin. And I'm sure some of you scholars out there see the Odin reference, right? Wink, huh? That was double punning right there. You'll also notice one of the things that people are amazed at are the fact that we actually do have sturgeon in the Hudson River. We have both the Atlantic and the short-nosed sturgeon. This is a fiberglass model of Atlantic sturgeon. They typically get to be about 6 to 8 feet long, but with side scan sonar, we've actually seen them growing up to 14 feet in the Hudson River. Oh my gosh, that's like, 4 meters. That is a big fish, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring up my absolute favorite critter from the Hudson, and that is the wonderful eel. Yes, so this is an American eel, very similar to the European eel. This is one of our patagonous or species that hatches in salt water and then travels up into fresh water. Here in the United States, this is one of several species for which river connectivity and dam removal is super duper crucial. This is sort of the youngster stage of eel that we would call an elver around here. Some people might call that a bootlace eel. We use the term elver. And right now, it's early March, and right now, collected yesterday, we are seeing that inward migration of tiny glass eels. These are the young of the year eels that hatched less than a year ago, possibly in the Sargasso Sea, possibly in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. We don't actually know. And like the European eels, they spend the first part of their life traveling to continental estuaries and then up into the Hudson. You'll also notice in here, however, you'll notice a little crab there. And if anybody wants to put in the chat box what kind of crab they think this is, you are welcome to do so. Now, this was caught in a freshwater tributary of the tidal Hudson River. So that fresh water is part of the clue. It does not have paddle-like swimmerettes on its back feet. That's also part of the clue. And anybody out there who guessed mitten crab, you are correct. This is actually a non-native or non-indigenous species in the Hudson. We're a little bit concerned about mitten crabs because we know that in other parts of the world, other parts of Europe actually, mitten crabs, I believe, have had kind of a bad effect on eroding tributary stream banks. And so this is a relatively new critter we're keeping an eye on. And we're wondering, are we going to see more or less of those mitten crabs? But all of these animals, one of the great things about them is that they connect us to rivers and they connect us all to each other. And that is actually the perfect segue to our next speaker. Though before that, Branka, I never gave you a proper thank you. So I wanted to make sure to give you that proper thank you. You're doing an awesome job. Thank you and the World Wildlife Federation for all the great work you're doing.
Thank you, Chris.
Speaking of connecting us all through rivers, our next speaker is a very special guest, Will Millard. Will, I don't think we've ever met before, but reading your bio, I just want to take you out to coffee and let you go. Will is an adventurer and a storyteller, writer and BBC presenter. He's won the BAFTA Simru Award for Best Presenter and the Real Screen Award for Travel and Exploration. I can feel the jealousy of everyone on this call leaking out. He's the author of the critically acclaimed book that I just ordered because I want to read it, called The Old Man and the Sand Eel. Oh, you got me, Will. When he's not fishing or filming in jungles, he's out making films about Welsh history, waterways, or big fish. Welcome, Will. Thank you so much for being here today. Will, anything you want to say to open up?
What an introduction, Chris. Thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate that. Yeah, well, greetings. I'm here in South Wales. So that's Wales, which is the country to the west of England in the UK. Absolutely beautiful country. I've been living here for something like 15 years now. Really, really blessed. I live out on the coast, on the Severn Estuary, but right around us here, we've got loads of really cool rivers. We've got the River Wye that splits the English and Welsh border. We've got the River Taff, which is my big local city river, where I've done a lot of work. We've got the River Severn, the River Usk. So it's a really, really sort of river-rich place.
Well, tell us a little bit more. You mentioned the River Taff, and I understand, A, you did a documentary on that river, and B, that river may have a story of renewal. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bad time, for UK rivers of late. There's been a lot of press about it. A lot of pollution problems, a lot of political problems as well. But the River Taff for me is a sort of life buoy that I cling to in these troubled waters. When I first moved to Cardiff, to Wales for work, I was transfixed by this urban river that flowed past my doorstep. I literally couldn't believe the richness of the place, given it was going through the capital city of the country, and couldn't understand why anglers like myself weren't sort of filling the banks, really, because it was full of life and full of fish. I was making a series over in Indonesia at the time, my sort of maiden series as a presenter back in 2014. When I came back from that, I wanted to do something a bit closer to home and pitched this series about the Taff as the sort of river that made Wales, really. It's got this rich environmental history, but this rich industrial history too. And as I unpicked it, it became clear that effectively, come the 1980s, the river itself was declared biologically dead. It had huge problems from runoff from the coal mines. The area of land that it descends down from is an area called the South Wales Valleys, which was one of the richest coal fields on earth. At one point we were putting out more coal from this area than anywhere else on the planet. The first £1 million check was signed here in Cardiff, the Cardiff docks, but it poisoned the river. It literally turned it black. Coupled with that, around the late 70s and 80s, a big industrial estate got placed in an area called Treforest, which was around the middle reaches, and the kind of poisoning continued. Come the 90s, though, coal mining wound up around here. Well, it was sort of mid-80s, coal mining started to close off, and one of the kind of the major plus point of what was something that was completely devastating for the local economics was that the river came back from the dead. And you kind of saw during the miners' holidays, just the miners' fortnight, 2 weeks, you'd see the kind of river start to clear a bit. So there's always this idea that it could flush through, that there was potential. And then really kind of local angling groups, local conservation groups, our environment agency, they got a grip of the place. They did a lot of restocking work, and relevant to what you guys do, they broke down a lot of the old industrial weirs. We had weirs here from the 1700s for the ironworks, and they got rid of them. And then sort of just over a decade ago now, we started seeing salmon return to the upper reaches for the first time in 200 years. So we made this 3-part series about this amazing story, really. And, we've hoped that we've done our bit to sort of, tell a little bit about these conservation heroes, but also raise people's awareness about the rivers and what we can do.
Well, that is an awesome mission. I know, like the World Fish Migration Foundation, that is the rock solid truth, is telling those stories. Now, that's a really great story about, I'll say, like a heavily industrialized river, right? Sort of this river with a very heavy duty industry history. But I've been told you have also traveled to some rivers without such industrial river. And I think Thevos was particularly interested in a story about crocodiles in an Indonesian province of West Papua.
That's it.
Do I have that right?
Yeah, West Papua. So it's the western half of the island of New Guinea. So it's the Indonesian province in on the island of New Guinea. The eastern part being Papua New Guinea, an independent country in its own right. And I spent, I mean, over the course of a decade, maybe 3.5 years, just exclusively in this place. You know, pristine jungle environment, incredible rivers, incredible people. 1/3 of the world's dialects found within this province alone, because there's so many different tribal dialects from valley to valley. You know, tribal people that were shut off from each other, let alone the outside world, for thousands of years. And then I also spent a lot of time in Sierra Leone and Liberia. I made a descent of the rivers Mono and Maro with that boat you can see on the screen right there.
Yeah.
That's in Sierra Leone. And again, you know, another pristine forest environment, totally distinct to obviously the rivers that I spend so much time in Europe now, you know, with all the people on the banks and things like that, but nonetheless a threatened environment too. This is an illegal diamond mine that you guys can see here. This is in Sierra Leone. Amazing, lovely people, to be fair, but you know, they've dug out that section of the river, and then big generators pumping, trying to find these diamonds in the mud. You know, those guys are paid $1 a day. Terrible, you know, slave-like conditions, really, the labor down there. And amazing to sort of get access to those people and tell their story too. So I returned to Papua and made a series for the BBC called My Year with the Tribe, living with the Korowai people in the swamps of the sort of southern areas of Papua, and then also made a radio series for BBC Radio 4 of that descent down the Sierra Leone Liberia border there. And yeah, I mean, such a privilege. I've been really lucky.
Wow. And it looks like if people want to check out some of these adventures, it looked just now, we saw a YouTube channel. Neja posted your website in the chat box. So I think people can probably explore your adventures a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of illegal upload streams out there. If you search for Hunters of the South Seas or My Year with the Tribe, and My Year with the Tribe is on the BBC iPlayer. So if you're overseas and can do something funky with your IP address, you can watch that as well. So
beautiful. What are your upcoming plans?
Do you know, at the moment, I'm very much focused on my writing. A little bit like yourself, actually, spending a lot of time going into schools. I try and take like the full kind of, you know, freshwater ecosystem experience into the schools. You know, I want to try and engage children as much as possible now. I'm a father now of 2, and I can see the importance of showing children the natural world, especially freshwater ecosystems. You know, I think that if you can show it to them, you can make them believe in it, and you can make them care about it. And that's so important looking forward now into the next generation and who's going to be taking over from us after we're gone, looking after these places.
Oh, Will, you're getting me right here. You know that, buddy.
Oh, Chris.
So there's a lot of people out here on this call who are thinking to themselves, man, I wish I could tell these kinds of stories. Man, I wish I could have this sort of connection with an audience. Do you have any advice for people on tools, tricks, being a better communicator, just kind of like a quick word of advice on anybody out there trying to communicate about fragmented rivers? Any advice?
That's a brilliant question, Chris. I mean, the first thing I always say to people when they ask me about broadcasting and working in radio, or even just communicating with words, is that the most important thing is that you let your passion lead. If you've got something that you're truly passionate about, that comes through in the words and what you speak about down the camera lens. And then the second thing is practice. Like I was a really sort of shy, self-effacing child that found it really difficult to speak to people. But the more that you practice your communication and the more you record yourself, the better you get at it. We're very lucky that we have these platforms and tools and social media. And my advice would be just use it. Record content when you're out in the field. Your job is interesting to an audience. You've just got to get it out there, and the people will come.
My colleague Elizabeth Streifenator, also on this call, knows very well that I'm out on those boats very often, just recording random stuff. She's laughing right now, I bet. Will,
Nice.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for your library of work. I cannot wait for your next adventure, be it on film or in the written word, and I'm looking forward to The Old Man and the Sand Eel. It is great speaking with you, sir.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it. All the best, everybody.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Dam removal movements are scaling up in Europe. We've been hearing about that. We've heard, geez, we're Wales, Norway, Montenegro, but it's not always sunshine and roses, is it? Let's see what Lena Holmes has to say about that. Lena is a postdoctoral researcher at Water Resources Management Group at Wageningen University, working on not one, but two projects, Riverhood and River Commons. She's studying water justice movements around the world. And today she's with us to discuss the social conflicts around dam removal in Spain as part of her PhD research. Hello, Lena, and thank you for being here.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for the invitation. It's great to be here.
It is wonderful. So it seems like in the last 10 or 20 years, there's been increasing efforts to remove barriers in Spain. How did that start? Why is that happening now?
Yeah, well, a very good question that I also had myself at the beginning of my research. I think there are actually different reasons that are also connected to each other. So I think one important general reason is that there's, I think, increasing attention for ecology and the importance to consider rivers as ecological systems, and thereby also consider all the possible negative effects river barriers can have on a small scale and on a large scale. And I think this increasing attention to ecology is reflected also in certain policies, in better enforcement of laws concerning ecological flow and fish passages and so on, but also in laws coming from the European Union, such as the Water Framework Directive, that has really pushed certain water agencies in Spain to improve the ecological status of the river. And I think at the same time, so there's kind of a policy push for considering ecology, but there's also been social movements, different local and regional and national organizations calling for a new water culture in Spain, because actually Spain has a very long history of massive river engineering projects and dam construction. But this social movement calling for a new water culture says that it's important to reconsider the way we have been managing rivers and actually moving away from this idea of using every drop of water of a river productively for human purposes, so for hydropower, for irrigation, and so on, but to also consider rivers as ecological systems. And I think one more important reason that has opened the way for barrier removal in Spain is also that the water agencies responsible for managing rivers in Spain maybe in the last 10, 15 years, they have become more diverse in terms of disciplines. So that means before it used to be mainly civil engineers looking and deciding about river management, and now there are also forestry engineers, biologists, social scientists, and so on, which has really opened up the debates about river management and making barrier removal a possible option. So I think there are different reasons for this trend in Spain: ecological considerations, legal policies, institutional changes, and also movements pushing for these changes.
You know, your talk reminds me, you're really hitting on that overlapping of disciplines and the sort of classic model that many people engaged in environmental work use, of that model of the overlapping Venn diagram of the ecological aspects, which we understand pretty well, of the economic aspects, which are often challenges, but sometimes they're straightforward challenges. But in addition to the ecological and the economic, there's that social perspective of the environmental work that we're doing. And that means the big picture policy, but also the grassroots community levels. And you're touching on a lot of this in this discussion. I understand that there was one project you worked on in specifically in Eastern Spain. I think it was in Aragon, and it was pretty contested. Can you tell us about that situation and why it was or is still a source of conflict?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a very interesting case. I mean, we are seeing here some pictures in the background of the Los Torranes Dam, which it's not yet removed, but it seems like it's going to be removed very soon. It was constructed in the 1950s for hydropower generation, but when the use license expired, the hydropower company decided to not want to maintain the dam anymore, and the water agency decided that then the best way forward should be to actually remove the dam. But when this decision was taken, there really was a huge citizen mobilization that, yeah, we see here the banners around the villages close to the dams. So there were different people arguing and mobilizing against this removal, politicians from all over Spain coming to visit that place to understand why it was so contested. And I think when I started looking at it, the main issue was actually the dam was constructed for hydropower production, and that was its sole legal use on paper, let's say. But throughout its existence in the last 70 years, it has also been connected to a local irrigation system. So part of the water dammed was actually used for the irrigation of small local orchards. So when the idea came up to remove it, because this dam was, yeah, on paper becoming obsolete and not efficient anymore and so on, actually the communities or the local population saw that if this dam is removed, also we will not be able to irrigate our orchards anymore. So I think that was a very important discussion that also touched upon the question of what is a legal use and what is not a legal use, and then how far should, let's say, spontaneous users and water users of a dam also be taken into account when it comes to removal projects. But I think that's part of the explanation why it was and still is such a conflictive case. But I also think that it relates to bigger rural frustrations, I would say, and politics in the place. So when I talked to people that were against the removal, there was actually quite a frustration with outsiders from the cities or from the national government coming in and kind of imposing desk designed ideas. That were not so connected to local ideas of how the rivers and the environment should be managed.
Well, I got to say, I am like so impressed and just honored to be speaking with you and other river superheroes, whether they call themselves that or not. This, you know, my job is easy. I just have to get people to care and get inspired, and then it's people like you, Lena, who are really diving deep and getting into these super complex issues and getting these rivers reconnected. Lena, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. We did put your website in the chat box, so don't be surprised if a lot of people start bombarding you with questions and requests for advice, because what you're doing is really important and really impressive. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to move on. Wait, time out. Did you guys hear that? Oh my gosh, people, we've got breaking news. It's become a regular feature on the DRE Cafe. Breaking news, everybody, breaking news.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are interrupting our program to share with you some exciting news. Environmental Agency, Dynamic Rivers, and World Fish Migration Foundation, on behalf of Dam Removal Europe Coalition, invites you to the UK Dam Removal Conference in Manchester from the 18th to the 19th of May. Speakers from all over Europe will share their experience related to the problems encountered in dam removal projects and the possible solutions. Also, during this conference, the winner of the 2022 Dam Removal Award will be announced at a special ceremony on May 18th. The award is hosted by the Dam Removal Europe, the Wolfish Migration Foundation, the European Investment Bank, and supported by the Dutch Postcode Lottery. The most inspiring project will be awarded with 10,000 euros towards the next removal project. The winner will receive the prize and the Happy Fish statue by Jeremy Wade. So don't miss it and submit your proposal project before March 6. Coming up next, the European Open Rivers Program invites expression of interest for project submissions for dam removal, preparatory and demolition projects under the grant category A1, A2, A3, and B. The applications must be submitted online via the program's application portal by 5 p.m. Central European Time on the 14th of April of 2023. For this call, the program is only accepting applications from countries where few dam removals have taken place and exceptional ecological potential can be demonstrated. Thank you, have a wonderful night, and this is all for now from DRE News Channel. Back to you, Chris.
All right, pal. Woohoo! That was awesome. I don't know if first of all, there was a lot in that little breaking news. Some of that was tied to funding. Remember our 3 Venn diagrams, economics, right? So I'm sure everybody out there was jotting down some notes. March 6th or 16th, whatever was coming up. So check that out. Hopefully everybody here has already seen the amazing documentary that the World Fish Migration Foundation and Dam Removal Europe put together called Dam Busters. I think we should take a moment here. Everybody get your emojis ready. I think we need a round of applause for Pau and Herman, the pillars of the World Fish Migration Foundation. Pau and Herman, we love you very much. Here are emojis of applause and joy. Thank you for the work that you two are leading with our superhero team. Loving it. Thank you, everybody. Now, this is a speaker I've been waiting for because we're going to come across the pond right here to the United States, where we're going to be meeting with Eric Hutchins. Eric is the Fish Habitat Restoration Specialist for the NOAA Restoration Center in the USA. And Eric, by the way, big thumbs up. Our team is also part of the National Estuarine Research Reserve. So we're sort of NOAA siblings in this and very happy to be here. Eric has been involved in more than 50 dam removal projects, 50, in his 22 years in habitat restoration. But he's not done yet. This guy's going for more. Hello, Eric, how are you doing? Is there anybody out there? Is Eric Hutchins here? Hold on a second. Give me 1 second here. Ipswich River. Go ahead, take yourself off mute, buddy.
Take yourself off mute.
All right. Eric, how are you? Where are you? What's going on? What is going on? Hold on, we've got everybody hold tight.
Can you see me?
Eric, we can see you fine. Where are you?
It's unmuted. It's open.
Yeah, you sound great. You look great. We just want to know where you are. You
Right
look
now,
like
I
you're
hear
in a river.
nobody.
Uh-oh. Should have grabbed my guitar to fill in the gaps here.
Can anyone hear me? No one can hear. I'm not hearing anybody on World Fish right now.
Well,
I'm not hearing Chris. I'm not hearing anybody. Okay, I'm going to talk on the premise that I can't hear until he cuts in. I'm standing here right now at the edge of the Bostic Dam, otherwise known as the South Middleton Dam on the Ipswich River, Middleton, Massachusetts. This dam, many of us from the state, local organizations, the Ipswich River Watershed Association, the Division of Ecological Restoration in Massachusetts, the Division of Marine Fisheries, NOAA, Fish and Wildlife Service have had their eyes and have been actively working on this removal for well over 15 years now, and it's slowly coming to fruition. It could possibly come out in 2023 depending on the final steps of some permitting. If not, we're almost assured that we're optimistic the following year, but we got to crack at it this year. This is one of many projects in the Ipswich River watershed that the Ipswich River Watershed Association is working with the state and federal agencies to work on opening up the Ipswich River. Ipswich River has, I don't even want to put a number on the number of dams, but right now NOAA has put funding just this past winter to work on 5 dam removal and fish passage projects in the Parker River and the Ipswich River. This potentially will be the first one. We've got a dam coming down in Newbury on the Parker River. That will potentially be a year from now, maybe a year and a half, and then a couple of fish passage projects on top of this. We've provided funding nationwide just this winter, about $105 million for 36 projects, and we will be having a solicitation for well over another $100 million, give or take, later this year for additional projects. We have extensive funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law funneling into NOAA through multiple programs to do habitat restoration, dam removals, fish passage throughout this country. In just since about 1991, the program that I work with, the NOAA Restoration Center, just here in the Northeast United States, we've implemented about 300 dam removal and fish passage projects that have opened up about 2,600 miles of fish passage for eels and Atlantic salmon, our river herring, sea lampreys, even a few projects that have actually helped both short-nosed sturgeon and Atlantic sturgeon. So a wide variety of species that we're working on. Couldn't do it without local grassroots. You got the federal government, we got state government, and then you got the citizens, and you got the nonprofit groups in the watersheds. It needs, to be perfectly honest, all 3 of these pieces together are what make these happen. And the Ipswich River Watershed Association has been diligently pursuing these projects for years. We do everything we can to help them, but it wouldn't happen without them. What were some of other, what more can I tell you about this? This dam right here, 6 to 7 feet high. That's it. No passage whatsoever here. The only thing that makes it over this dam right now are probably some eels. Eels can make it up over the 2 dams below this, some of them, and then they make it here, and there's no way for them to make it over, other than some will make it over the crevices and over the side. But every dam, even for American eels, is a place where they get picked off by birds and other fish because it slows their passage down significantly. When they sit here and wait for a week or 2 to figure out how to get over it, that's when the predators come in. This dam provides no function to anybody anymore. The factory behind me used to use this as their fire suppression impoundment. They've, on my right-hand side, they've actually recently invested in a water tower, so they have, regardless of droughts or floods or flows, they now have a water suppression system that is more suited for their needs. So there's no need whatsoever for this dam. So I don't have a cue on.
So first of all, Eric, if you can hear us, you're doing great work, and you covered a lot of great ground. Does that thumbs up mean you can hear us?
Yes, I can hear you just now.
Hey, right on, right on, right on. So first of all, I just want to say it is a delight to hear a New England accent. One of my fellow New Englanders on this call. Thank you very much for that. You covered a lot of ground, and you really mentioned some of those great species that are going up. In your experience, be it on the Ipswich or anywhere else, what are, if anybody asked, yeah, but what are the benefits to people? What are the benefits to communities? What are the benefits to economies? What do you say are those kind of benefits?
Well, I'm going to tell you one. I actually grew up in Gloucester, Massachusetts, which is one of the largest and longest commercial fishing ports in North America. And I commercially fished. I grew up with many friends that fished, many families. For one thing, river herring in particular, American shad, are forage fish for many of the commercial recreational species that we eat, they harvest. They bring lots of families their income. So there's certainly a commercial fishery side. There's also just a pure recreational fishery side. If you want to fish for striped bass, bluefish, catch and release bluefin tuna, whatever it is, these are part of the ecosystem that was cut off significantly over the past 400 years. We don't even know what the baseline is on these fish because we weren't collecting data 400 years ago when we started knocking these runs of fish down. Our best data sets now are at best 100 years old, and even those are really weak. We do not even know how important and how large these runs were 400 years ago and what they meant to the commercial and recreational species through up and down the east coast of the United States. The other is these fish in particular, the migratory fish, river herring coming out of here or American shad, they are migrating up and down the entire east coast, down to the Carolinas and up to the Canadian Maritimes, and at times out to 200 miles. They are feeding seabirds, marine mammals, a whole host of species that they're important to in the food chain.
Those are some phenomenal points. Thank you for making those points, especially that idea of those shifting historical baselines. I put in actually in the chat box, Eric, a book called Running Silver by my friend and our colleague, John Waldman. And I love in that book, he also talks about the fact that you bring up this historical data and the fact that if we don't restore these rivers soon, people are going to forget that these kinds of fish were ever even an option. So I'm so glad that you brought all of those threads together. Eric, you are doing phenomenal work. We want to thank you. We want to thank Noah. And thank you especially for being out on the Ipswich River on a cold March morning. We really appreciate it. Round of applause for Eric Hutchins. Fantastic. Fantastic. We're getting close to the end, but we are not there yet. Want to mention again, the World Fish Migration Foundation and the DRE Cafe is put on by a whole bunch of people behind the scenes. You did pull it off, Eric. You did pull it off. One of those people who is making this foundation thrive wants to give us a few words about upcoming DRE Cafes. Nizad, the floor is yours.
Of course, you're preparing for 10 minutes for this and then hey, thank you, Chris. Really nice to see you all. We were 120 today, so really nice. You said about next cafe. It's gonna be June, so we'll announce it soon. I think it's gonna be June. But yeah, definitely we will keep them coming. But I wanted really now to draw attention to another of our activities, and that's community of practice. So if you go to our website, you'll see we have 3 experts on dam removal, and you can communicate with them through the website if you want. So if you're eager to remove a dam and you need a little bit more expertise, go to our website, check it out. There's a lot of resources, scientific articles. Yeah, they are the experts. So just use everything that is up there to help you make your dam removals happen. And also, if there's something you cannot find, you can always write us. We are quite a, let's say, wide team. So whatever is bothering you, communications, if you need an expert, don't hesitate, contact us. We'll connect you with someone if we don't have answers. So yeah. That's one thing. And then again, if you are an organization that would like to work more on dam removal, supports the idea of removing river barriers, please join us, come on board, let me know, write me an email, and yeah, become one of our supporters. And also, we are always open for donations. We still have a couple of those Dam Removal Europe hoodies if you want. So yeah. And the last thing, how to reach us through social media, emails, email rounds, newsletters. links are here on the screen, so really don't miss anything. Join us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nisa. Thank you, World Fish Migration Foundation. Thank you to all of our sponsors for helping us keep these cafes going. Huge thank you to all of our speakers today from all over the world. You guys are doing phenomenal, phenomenal work. And we really appreciate these bits of inspiration. We look forward to the next DRE Cafe, probably in early to mid-June. We'll be getting that word out soon. Also, if any of you find yourselves in New York State, be sure to look me up, Chris Bowser. We can go out and catch some glass eels. Why not? So please keep me in mind. Keep that Hudson River in mind. Everybody, good luck in all the work you're doing. And as my final sign off, as I always like to say, be the bestuary you can be.